It's so good to see you. Happy 2026, our first masterclass of the year. This is so exciting. And we have so many people here. This is awesome. Um, we're going to start how we usually start. But right before I introduce Jeff, I just really quickly want to say for anybody who is joining us for the very first time, this is our Change the Beat Masterclass series. We do this once a month at least, sometimes even more. And the Masterclass series is about us sharing knowledge, obviously, but also introducing people to our community that can help the community grow in their lives and careers. So we interview people from everything from top record label heads to agents, if you're trying to get an agent in this industry, in the dance music industry, managers, talent buyers, bookers, massive artists. And we do it to obviously help elevate our community. And it's usually behind our Patreon. So Patreon is called CTB Plus, and it's $5.99 a month. Make sure if you do join, you join on your desktop. Don't join on your iOS, or it charges you an iOS fee. But this gives you access to come to all of our classes for free. And also there's other benefits. Like if you are in our remix program, you get the stems for our remix contests earlier than everybody else. You get discounts on our merch. Sometimes we also let you in free to our events and stuff. So this obviously today is a free class open to everyone. However, CTV Plus is how you can support our community. We offer so much free stuff, and we don't ask for much in return. But this is one way you can support us, is just by paying $5.99 a month with Patreon. But anyways, like I said, today is open to everyone, and we're so excited to welcome Jeff Chow here. Jeff is a Toronto-based event curator and mindset coach known for intentional, empowering experiences. He helps people break through limitations, reconnect with purpose, and step into their full potential through his coaching community and curative events. We're here today to dive into career planning and strategies and goal setting for 2026, while goal setting alone isn't enough, and why systems, habits, and mental health matter more than ever in 2026. And also, just a little side note, Jeff is also one of the first promoters to ever book me when I first started DJing. Like, we've known each other now for close to 26 years, I think. About, yeah, because I'm about 26 years into DJing, so you pretty much met me my first year of ever DJing. So we've been friends for about 26 years. And when I first came to Toronto, and I got my very first residency, it was for Jeff. He was a promoter at a club called Mad Bar. I posted a video about it earlier this week, but if you missed that, there was a little club called Mad Bar here in Toronto, and Jeff was the promoter, and he said, I want to bring you in, and I want to give you your first weekly residency. And so we've been friends ever since, and it's been really cool to see what Jeff has grown into over the course of this time. And myself and him both have very similar interests on self-development, and we thought this would be a perfect time to share what we have learned and our inspiration and stuff to the community today. So Jeff, welcome to Change the Beat. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. I mean, I was getting goosebumps when you were saying all that, because it's such an honor to be a part of the journey for you. And I have the visuals of how it all went down, and it was so special. One thing's for sure, I'm blessed and grateful. I love music so much, and I have that ear. And I just believe you had what it takes, and definitely had the ear as well. So now looking back at it all, I'm just grateful to see you where you are today, and happy to be here
Yeah.
and invited to this. So yeah, this is super cool. I would say, beyond career planning and everything, what I've realized or what I've worked on over the years is just developing the right mindset towards everything, and how my perception or lens in life, which is my definition of mindset, is how we, process everything every day, all the things that come at us that we don't control, and all the things that come at us that we want to control, like our desires. So yeah, I'm excited to share a lot of the methodologies and any questions anyone has. Just to give you a quick story of how I got where I am. It gets emotional. I still work on that, and I think that's part of the process of becoming our authentic self. Because I've had a pretty interesting upbringing, but all makes sense to where I am today. So I too wanted to be, a big DJ at a very young age. At like 14 or 15 years old, I started, in a basement. Quickly, that turned sideways because I got ill. I had a blood cancer, lymphocytic leukemia at 15. I was diagnosed. And I was telling Joe this. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. But at that time, I just made it into hospital for sick kids. If I was older, at 16, I would have been to Princess Margaret. So all the children and sick kids, they get some of you may have heard, we get a wish from the Wish Foundation. And so when they came and told my mom told me, hey, Jeff, you get a wish. And we get this little pamphlet, and all the kids usually take like a trip to Disney or a trip with their families to somewhere hot. And I chose a whole DJ rig. I chose two turntables, a mixer, speakers, the amp, the whole nine. So I don't know. I guess intuitively, I knew kind of what I wanted to do at that age, and they said yeah. So they dropped off this rig, and that kind of boosted a little bit towards what I wanted to keep pursuing, which was music. Fast forward to 21, I got into remission from the illness, and that's roughly the same time I decided to move downtown and go to raves, experiment with drugs. And then, I was so fascinated by the music, all genres. At that time, there was a lot of drum and bass and jungle in Toronto. So that was what kind of lured me in. But I walked into the house room. I think it was a Better Days party, Better Days rave. And I was like, okay, this is where all the, uh, people are dancing to this, and it was just such a wonderful time. So I decided to throw parties at about 21, 22, very young. I always say it's not something our guidance counselor tells you about, but I fell in love with music, and more so not just DJing, just providing DJs their hit of what to experience. And then, I got into the club business. That's when it kind of got more intense, where the all the drugs, like the cocaine hit, the alcohol, just staying up all, sometimes even 2 days a night. So I say this because I think when it comes to the electro, or I believe when it comes to, the electronic scene, or any scene for that matter, that associates that sex, drugs, and rock and roll, it does add to the challenge. It does add to the bumps that you may have to hit in order for you to become the person you need to become. So I know I've experienced that. I know Joe's experienced that. Sydney's experienced that, and a lot of our peers have. I think it's safe to say that people that choose that lifestyle, are on a path, I guess, but also has to be mindful and learn from their mistakes from it. So fast forward to my 30s, I ended up walking away. I opened up a fair share of clubs from 23 to 30, but then I said, if I continue down this road, I'm going to probably die, or something else is going to happen. So I walked away from everything, and that's when I really started knowing that, what, I'm here for a reason. I started, deciding on adjusting my environments, changing my friends, and I started to fall in love more with self-improvement. And then I'm in my 40s now, late 40s. When I got into my 40s, I decided to pursue real estate, get my license, and then I also started to get that feeling again to start organizing events, because it's just part of something of what I've done so long since in my 20s and meeting Joe. So I started to manifest that again, and then yeah, and then I started coaching business 2.5 years ago. And ultimately, I'm just doing what I believe intuitively I'm supposed to do. And it's safe to say that also comes with a challenge, and why I fell in love with helping myself while helping others, and vice versa. There's nothing more rewarding than being aligned with that, and waking up every day knowing that that's what I work on. And so, yeah, I hope that makes sense. It's probably the shortest I can explain it, but there's a lot more things going on besides that. But again, I'm here today to talk about how I've managed to navigate these challenges and become and live as my authentic self as much as I can every day.
Amazing. And
Yeah.
there is something to be said for if you're living a life that's focused on your purpose, it makes the hard tasks, like the discipline tasks, come a lot easier because you know you're working towards something for yourself, I think. I think that is one thing that I've also learned is like I can have really, really challenging days, but I still know that I'm still working towards something that defines my purpose in life, and which is, you know, to share knowledge about music and in one way or another. And so I think that that's another great thing about living a life that's focused on your purpose and not just say your job or whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, okay, so let's start from the big topic that we want to discuss today, which is goal setting for 2026, the big picture. Um, I'm just curious, like, what your thoughts are on why do you think uh, a lot of people fail at their goals on a yearly basis, like over reliance on motivation, setting goals that, like, what are some goals that you can set that align with your values, not ego or external
Hmm.
pressure? Um,
Hmm.
Long term versus short term thinking in
Hmm.
creative careers.
Yeah, it's interesting. Great question to start off with. I guess the cliche goal is what we hear in the beginning of the years that people want to like, get in better physical health and go to the gym or just be more active, and perhaps add a diet to the mix and stuff like that. From my knowledge and experience, I believe a lot of it is that we as humans we tend to have like we have imagination and ideas, and that's like we're the only species on the planet that can do that. So we'll envision what it is that we want to change in, and we'll almost fixate on that. So we'll have this great idea. Hey, this is what I want to do for 2026 or for the month of January, and then we'll set it up. Write down what it is that we actually have to execute on. But then we tend to fixate on the results too much, and not. It's good to have the result in mind, yes, because that's the goal. But I believe it's also having the awareness to focus on the steps in front of you and the actions that have to be taken
Yeah.
each day or each moment. And that's, it takes discipline and consistency there. But I do believe people have a tendency to just, focus on the results a little bit too much or too quick. So what happens is if they don't see the change visually or even, feel it, uh, quickly enough, then their ego or something else will kick in to say, you know what, this is not working, or I'll get distracted and I'll go back to my bad habits, which we can talk about in a bit. But it's more so I think people just don't have the patience and understand how much or how consistent they have to be. So that's why I think, coaches, even myself, I needed a coach at one point to kind of keep me in check. So that's one. Um, Also, I believe, with the limiting beliefs and self-doubts, we deal with, humans are very emotional, especially as we navigate in 2026 with all the information, social media, and everything that we have to process. We have a lot of traumas, we have a lot of conditioning from our parents, from our friends, from our upbringing, from the shit that's happened to us throughout our life. And so some of that stuff, unfortunately, is the weight that holds us back. And I always think, sometimes for people to really make major changes in life, they may have to, like, there's a saying that we may have to go backwards before we go forwards. And so sometimes we have to, find people or, mentors or just something, maybe read something that allows us to sit with a bit of the emotion or any of those traumas and conditioning and kind of unravel, to help us feel a little bit less weight towards us, leveling up on something that we have to stay focused on and have to have our mind more focused on and just be more aware and have that clarity, which is tough. And I do believe, sometimes people have to all, but this is the biggest one. I think the reality is that as a coach, you can't change anybody. You can't really fix anybody. That's not the whole point of coaching. If anything, the biggest client that we have or I have in coaching is myself. What it is that people have to unfortunately get to hit a part of pain that they may have to experience in order for them to actually change or want to change. And that's where where the term rock bottom came from. If it's an addiction or if it's something that they can't just get through themselves, the idea of changing is great, but sometimes they'll need to hit that point before they actually make a move to change. So I think it's those two or three things that I mentioned is what kind of prevents people from sticking with something that's going to help them succeed towards goals in the new year or and
Yep.
in the beginning of the year.
Can I actually jump in regards to your comment about the steps to keep
Mm.
goals? So something that I actually purchased about a year ago. You guys can purchase it now. You don't need to though, because it's like if you're in North America with shipping and stuff, this thing is like $100. But I bought Stephen Bartlett's the diary. It's called the 1% Diary. And to save you guys money, I can just tell you guys what it is. All you need to do is like buy just a regular notebook, and you could do this yourself without buying $100 book, because it's basically a notebook, right, with like prompts in it. But basically the idea is that you make, say, three goals for the whole year. It really gives you only space in this particular book to choose three goals. But if you get your own book and do this, you could say have a fourth or a fifth. But basically it makes you write down every single day what you're going to do for each of those goals on a daily basis, how you're going to contribute every single day to that main goal. So like Jeff said, if you're not um if you're not thinking constantly about the end result and you're actually thinking about the process, that actually will probably make you stay on track more than if you're constantly thinking, I have to lose weight, I have to lose weight, I have to lose weight. Instead, you're thinking, like, I'm just using that as an example, but like for me, like one of my goals in this book was making music. Okay, so every single day, what am I going to do to make, and it wasn't just making music, it was also like getting my music signed to record labels, because I can make all the music I want, but if it's not signed to record labels and if it doesn't have a release plan, and I also on top of that put, it has to come out on big record labels, because that's my main goal, right? So let's say my main goal is I need to focus on making music on a regular basis. I need to make sure that music comes out on big record labels, and I need to do what I can on a daily basis to make sure that I'm focused on finishing my tracks and getting that music out and signed and a release schedule, etc. So every single day in my journal, I'm going to write down, okay, I shopped this record to this label. And then I go about my day and I do whatever all the other things on my to-do list. And then the next day, maybe I do some studio time. I write that down. Maybe the next day after that, I'm, following up with one of the record labels that I reached out to a week ago to make sure that they listened to it. And if they didn't listen to it, maybe I'm making a plan to send it to another record label. But if I'm doing something every single day to work towards that goal, it's not just about the goal, it's about the process and doing those things on a regular basis every day, and then recording them and writing them down. So you don't need to buy an $100 book to attain this, right? You can just get a regular notebook and you can write those three goals or four goals or whatever down, and then every single day write something down that you're going to do to work towards that goal, and that makes you stay accountable for those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I have to
And
agree. It's interesting that you say that because I just read a couple articles. It's so we've probably all heard of the term compound interest, but it's related to more financial gains. I read an article that we can relate it to life itself in terms of like having taking the action. I don't know how they said it. Dogged increment little actions for a long period of time, which is ultimately how people become successful.
Yeah,
Humans are not like we are so distracted again in what we do. So, we kind of don't realize that small little action that we take towards the goal is everything. And, talking about with Atomic Habits, it's the same thing. It's like that quote, every action we take is a vote for the person we want to become.
I love that.
So, right, it's like one of the best quotes ever. So it's like, and don't be so hard on yourself. This is the other thing, like when I coach, the three fundamentals I coach is, gratitude's a superpower. That's like I'm just like that gratitude guy. Second is self-awareness. And the self-awareness superpowers allows you to have a bit of grace and patience with yourself to understand like you don't have to reinvent or you're not like losing everything today. It's just little increments and staying accountable as Sydney said towards that for today and work on it and just know like if you do a little bit by little it will get you on that path and then surround yourself with people or have tools and resources to just keep you there because you're gonna get knocked off. I think it's kind of ironic because I think the more we want something, the more desire, the deeper the desire. I always say I joke around like with the universe or God or whatever one calls it. God's not gonna be like, oh, here you go, here. It doesn't work that way. If
Yeah.
anything, the bigger the desire, the more you want, it's going to be more of an uphill challenge. So I guess what you're saying is also we have to realize that the journey itself is an important part to enjoy and embrace. And you know what? From my experience, that's where the growth happens. That's where the magic happens. You don't feel it. It's like growing pains. We don't feel it, but you'll look back in time, maybe as you keep going and you go, oh my gosh. And you'll have some goosebump moments as long as you just stick with it.
Yeah. Actually, the podcast that you told me to listen to yesterday, it was a podcast with Jay Shetty and Rob Dial. I listened to the
Mhm.
whole thing yesterday and I liked how they were talking about how it actually does set off like dopamine receptors if all those little things when you start getting the little wins along the way. So it's almost like if you focus on like a good addiction, this dopamine reward system that you can set up for yourself for these little wins, that's going to give you the motivation to like keep going in regards to these like 1% better every day small little habits that you do
Yeah.
to
I
keep
actually I made a note on that. Sorry to cut you off. I just want to say that before I forget is that I call it's like revert. So dopamine, think about it. Then the word dopamine, like we smoke weed, we've done this, we experiment with that. It's like dope. They call it dopamine for a reason. And I'll be honest with you, since I've been on this path or on this frequency, dopamine is the most addictive drug.
yeah yeah
I think it's crazy on how much we like doom scrolling, Netflix. This is all dopamine related.
yeah
So what happens is when you start understanding the level of dopamine, I call it reverse engineering the dopamine. For example, when someone wants to go to the gym, right off the bat, I say, look, the heaviest weight is the front door. So don't necessarily focus on the exercise routines just yet. Like have them planned, maybe have it strategically ready to go, but just wake up and first of all get up consistently. That's one part of it, and then get to the gym and
yeah
focus on that little part until that dopamine hits of the accomplishment. And once you start feeling that, that's when you'll start getting little triggers. And then what happens is you can stack that. What I mean by reverse engineering the dopamine, there's a point where you can hit by creating the habit. And they always say 21 days. It's different for everyone. But what you're trying to do is get that habit be so consistent, whether it's the gym, whether it's eating, whether it's journaling, whether it's meditating, whether it's breath work, you're doing it so consistent to the point where when you stop doing it, you don't get the fix. You don't
yeah
get that high. And that's when you really know, like, wow, that's what I'm searching for. And then you get like, think about it. You reverse engineered a habit, a healthy habit that you just can't get rid of. Like, that's what we're trying to improve it, achieve in sense. So, yeah, dopamine is a serious little thing to pay attention to as you're on this journey of leveling up for sure.
yeah going back to Atomic Habits, which is such a great book for the new year. I think it's one of the most popular books, and James Clear's on his podcast run around all the podcasts right now.
Right now.
He's great. I highly recommend reading the book. I highly recommend listening to a James Clear podcast because he's constantly talking about systems and how to set your year up for consistent, how to be the person you want to become based on the systems, not willpower. So I'd love to like actually talk about that because the big thing, right, is that you cannot rely on willpower. Like there's going to be days where you're going to feel like not doing it. And so this is where consistency comes in and setting yourself up for having an environment that is going to set you up for success. Like, for example, if I go and buy a bunch of snacks and put them in my fridge, if I buy ice cream and cheese, all the things I bought at Christmas time that
I
I'm
hear
not
you.
eating right now, you know, I'm going to eat those things or sugar related things, etc. So, yeah. Any thoughts on that? Because I think willpower is something important to talk about.
Yeah, interesting enough, the biggest thing that I learned and helped with understanding habits as a whole, the Atomic Habits taught me is identifying our bad habits. Like first of all, habits, I think we there's and what I mean, I guess what I mean by that is micro habits. Like we don't realize like pressing the snooze button is a habit.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a bad habit. Going and adding like sugar to our coffee, you know, like there's these like little micro habits. So I think Atomic Habits allowed me to focus on all these little habits that I was already doing, that I would call negative habits that would counteract towards the goals that I wanted to achieve mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And so I feel like, yeah, definitely like you don't want to get overwhelmed with how many habits what we're doing negatively or positively, but it's identifying the small habits first of what you can adjust, and then add a couple positive habits towards what you're doing. And yeah, I think discipline is built through our habits. And like you said, it's noticing, you know, when you don't want to do something, that's actually when we should be testing ourselves or challenging ourselves to do something. And I've done it personally. I'm a big advocate towards that because I know, again, we don't feel it, but I know that I'm working on the discipline muscle. So, you know, by identifying whether it's a bad habit or a little bad habit, or whether it's a good little good habit, it's just using your self-awareness to know that, like, okay, wait a minute, is this an opportunity for me to like stop or not do this day? And then identifying that and then trying that again the next day and then the next day, and then to the point where you know, a whole point of a habit is trying to get it to the point where it's subconscious. So you're not trying anymore. It's like driving. So, you know, I think for me, kind of what helped is just before I started like reinventing my wheel with good habits, I focused. I had a period of time where I focused on all those little small bad habits, and then I would like do an inventory of that, and then it'd be like, you know what, I'm gonna work on that one, I'm gonna work on that one, I'm gonna work on that one, and then when I got that under control, I started focusing a bit more on the good habits, the small habits. So that's what I got or helped me the most out of that book. But yeah, if you're on this, like straight up, if you're on this journey of self-improvement, I think it's important to know who your digital mentors are, who like, we're all processing shit information. I'm one to talk, I'm guilty of it, but being mindful is about noticing like who you're paying attention to, what information is coming at you. And at this time, it's a great opportunity to talk, like follow Rob Dahl, follow this guy, James, what's his name? Yeah. And just, it might not benefit you right off the bat, but just like take in some of the information these guys share. It's truly valuable and it helps.
Yeah, agreed.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's a good segue, though, also into what both me and you are very religious about, which is morning routines.
Oh man.
I'm super, super strict with my morning routine. I mean, this kind of goes back into the atomic habits lessons, but like setting yourself up for success during the day. Something that I completely decided was a non-negotiable about 10 years ago was making sure I did the same stuff to set my day up for success for the entire day moving forward. So
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
non-negotiable for me is when I wake up, I journal. Then
Mhm.
right after that, I meditate.
Mhm.
And we can talk about the importance of meditation, but another thing is exercise. And
Mhm.
also, if you do things like without having to think about them so much, I think that that gives you also even more inclination to do those things because you're not like, oh, should I do them? Blah blah blah. It's just you wake up and you're like, this is what I do every single morning.
Mhm.
I don't
Mhm.
not do it. I just do it.
Mhm.
You know, if
Mhm.
you need to put out your workout clothes, like, you know, the night before you go to
Mhm.
bed, that's a good
Habit.
way.
That's a good habit. Set yourself up for success.
Yeah, yeah. But like, this is what I do as a non negotiable every single morning for working out, especially all three of these things. If I don't do them in the morning before I get up, there's a really good chance I'm not going to do them at all. So if I just get it out of the way, I know I've done these things. It's really good for me. It's setting my brain up to have a really good day in regards to all the things that I need to take on in regards to emails and negotiating and so much admin that
Mhm.
I have to do over the course of the day with my work and even making music. And so these are all things that are really good for your brain.
Yeah. First of all, I'm so proud and like let's like be proud of yourself for you're a DJ. You play, all hours, you travel so much. I can't imagine, how your nervous system takes a beating at sometimes. So like I when it comes to the morning routine, I'm biased. This is where I get most excited because it's changed my whole life. Developing a solid morning routine. Now, let's be fair here. Not everybody is a morning person. I don't believe that entire, I think conditioning. When you say someone says I'm not a morning person, I think that's conditioning. I think anybody can change anything when they want to. However, some people prefer to do these type of self-care activities different times of the day or at nighttime. For me, I've worked myself. You just shared it with us too that it works for you in the morning. I've coached enough people that have helped and helped develop a morning routine with these self-care activities. So happens, for example, for me when I wake up at around 5. I don't expect everyone to be waking up at that time, but that works for me. The first thing I do is I make a tea and I meditate.
Yeah.
First thing, 10-minute, 15, 20-minute. Now, this is considered what I call a self-care ritual, and I'll talk about that in a sec. And then the next thing I do is journal. And then for me, I just wrote my first or published my first gratitude journal. I don't know if my camera's doing that. I know it's, can't really see it, but whether it's journaling or whether it's like an actual theme journal or whether it's just like a journal that you can get from the dollar store, I personally start with every like 3 or 4 or 5 things that I'm grateful for, and I've been doing that for like years. And so it's a natural process for me to do that. And it's instantly allowing me to start in the right frame of mind, my nervous system's in check. And then I'll read. I add reading to the mix. Doesn't have to be crazy. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It could be anything you want, but I do want to get my brain going. And then I go over, I'll make myself a coffee, put my gym clothes on, and then I'll go to the gym. I've been doing that probably just like you, probably 10 years longer. And what I've noticed by studying myself about that is going back to everything that we were speaking about, is that it started as habits. I had to work on it. It was tough. Sometimes I didn't make it, which was fine, but I'd stick with it. And then it got into level 2, which is what I call a routine. And
Yeah.
so what happens is the dopamine goes up and it starts to become easier. It starts to develop, these habits starts to develop into your subconscious, and it starts to become your DNA on how you're approaching the world and also how you're processing the world.
Yeah.
Because the reality with meditation, and especially meditation or breath work, but taking the time to honor your soul for maybe 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes in the morning, you're increasing your self-awareness. You do not know that you're doing that, but it's increasing your self-awareness. It's when you have that self-awareness, it's also helping you uh, become a bit more patient you react less, you sort of kind of respond. You don't realize, but you're changing you're rewiring your whole nervous system.
Yeah.
And so what happened was is that these habits became routines, and then it got into the next level, which what I call, and I coach people to get to, is a self-care ritual. And what I mean by that is when you stop doing it, you notice a difference in life.
Yeah.
And that's when it becomes like it's you. This is what I this is what I thrive off. This is what I, enjoy waking up. It can get tricky, especially if people have partners. We're in relationships, we have kids, we have priorities, but I still believe that it's important that you take the time to honor your soul, honor yourself before you check in to any of the responsibilities that you do have, because at the end of the day, you want to show up the best for these people that you love.
Yeah.
So all you're doing is just increasing the love that you have for yourself, so you can provide that love for the people around you and the people that you want to see, you know, become the best version of their self. So it's interesting. I think the morning routine is one of the most important things that I've learned in life that allows me to continue to navigate the all the stuff that happens to us, Joe, and then all the stuff that we want to achieve and all the things that we want to, that we desire. So definitely, but like you, I'm definitely a morning routine advocate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Meditation also, I think from what I have learned about it, is it's a really interesting thing when you dive into exactly what it does, because when I first learned about meditation, or what I thought meditation was before I started meditating, was that it was something that just like was supposed to relax you. And that's actually not the purpose of meditation. I mean, it does, it has that, that it has that effect if you do it regularly. But the idea behind meditation is really to improve your reactions to things in life. And you do that by, having your mind say, calm and focused on something, nothing, whatever it is that you're going to focus on in your brain, but your mind is not jumping around thinking, and you just bring it in. And it's not about not thinking, it's about just bringing your mind back to that point of focus, which, if your eyes are open, you're focused on one thing against the wall maybe, or in my case, I'm looking out the window. Sometimes my meditation app actually tells me to do my meditation with my eyes open, because I'm not going through life with my eyes closed, So it literally sometimes tells me to keep my eyes open for my meditation, just focus on something on the wall,
Mm-hmm.
because the idea behind meditation is not so you're just going to be all calm. It's so you keep your focus and on a pause, and basically you're pausing thinking for just 10 minutes or 20 minutes or however long you meditate. And it doesn't mean you're that whole time you're not going to think. You will drift.
Hmm.
It's
Oh, absolutely.
inevitable.
It's
It's
not,
going to
it's,
happen,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
accept that. You say, okay, at some point I'm going to start drifting again. And then what happens is you realize your brain has just drifted, and you go, oh, I've just drifted, and you bring it back.
Mhm.
And the whole point of the meditation is not sitting there and not thinking, not sitting there and being calm. The whole point of the meditation is realize when you're drifting and put
Mhm.
it back. So I
Mhm.
could literally sit there and drift 10 times over the course of my
Mhm.
meditation. I do it often, believe me. Um, and I bring it back. And this has improved my reaction to
Mhm.
things. It has made me stop just going, someone drove me insane. You know what I mean? Like, because believe me, I
Mhm.
used to do that when I was younger.
Oh yeah. In our 20s, they call it, my nickname was Rage in our meet club meetings and my
Oh,
bar
yeah.
meetings.
Yeah,
No control of the emotions. So that's yeah. Yeah.
exactly. And that is
Mhm.
exactly why you meditate. You meditate
Yeah.
so you can bring yourself to a place where you don't have to react to every single thing that comes your way. You're not reacting to all these different things that
Mhm.
are happening in your brain, right? You're
Mhm.
just drifting and go, oh, I've drifted. And then you bring yourself
Yeah, and don't get aggravated about when you drift, because it like you said, it's just inevitable that you won't stop thinking. The mind and the brain, it doesn't stop. The whole point, I like to say it's like a computer that just processes, and you have to think about like it's constantly, processing all the traumas and all the priorities and the bills that got to be paid and all this that. So like give it some gray. That's what it's meant to do. But what's interesting, I like to I've gone back a couple of steps to even kind of like for people that have don't meditate or people that do meditate currently. I think the best thing about how to look at meditation, first of all, eliminate all expectations. Meditation is not going to cure, or it's not like, don't go into it thinking it's going to do anything, uh, but honor the fact that it's truly honoring your soul. Like it's really challenging for someone to sit in solitude for 5 minutes. So I don't even say the word meditation. I sometimes disguise it with breath work, just so because I feel like meditation has been thrown all over the mix and it can be quite intimidating because people have the high expectations of what it's supposed to do. I think the best thing to look at it is just like get into the habit of sitting down wherever, whether I see some people saying that they do it at night. It doesn't matter what time of day. It's about you honoring yourself for 5 minutes, the very
Yeah.
least, maybe 10, longer the better, and get used to what it's like to sit alone with your thoughts, because it's that's I know tons of people that can't do that. They don't they just won't. It's scary. It opens up doors that you don't even know that was, traumas and things that you don't even know that was there. And I think those are breakthroughs. But I think the first thing people should do, rather than think about what like they're actually meditating or not, is just to get in the habit of sitting down in solitude, and then be mindful of your breath. Like I think the breathing is the most underrated thing in life because we don't pay attention to it as much. And meditation gives you the ability to be like, holy fuck, I'm breathing like this. I'm actually breathing slower, or I'm breathing, in a pace. And then as you get used to honoring yourself and creating that habit to sit down in solitude, then take tiny steps to honor your breath, honor how much your mind moves, do exactly what Joe said in the sense that, it's gonna go left, it's gonna go right, it's gonna go all over the place, but just catch it and then bring it back to the breath. A second later, it's going to go think again, catch it and bring it back and get into that habit. I know it's going to be difficult in the beginning, but I'm telling you, it's probably one of the most rewarding things that I've been able to do in my life. And I'm so grateful for it. So, and I love when I meet people that have those breakthroughs about it. So if anybody needs any guidance with that, I'm definitely, I think people need to sit down in solitude and meditate or do some sort of breath work in 2026 with all the shit going on. So,
Oh yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I just have noticed a couple people in the chat asking about what they do, what apps and stuff they use for meditation. Jana mentioned something about Headspace. That's actually how I
Mhm,
started
mhm,
meditating, was using
mhm,
Headspace. It's a great
mhm,
app for
mhm,
beginners. I
mhm,
think there's a free, like you can do it for free for a bit actually too. So that's another reason why
mhm,
Headspace is a good one.
mhm.
But I personally subscribe to Waking Up by Sam Harris. I've been subscribed since
Oh,
literally
yeah.
that app was in
So
beta.
cool.
Yeah, I've been a subscriber. It's an amazing app. It's got a ton of mindful lessons and various things in addition to the daily meditation. But I meditate to Sam
Mhm,
Harris every morning, and yeah, he's very existential the way he speaks,
mhm,
and I like
mhm,
that. Takes it
mhm,
up a little bit further. Yes, it's called
mhm,
Waking Up.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
so yeah, I think that mental health is another really important thing. You were saying something that you said when we were talking about the meditation is you do it for, setting yourself up for the day so you can be good for the people around you. And I think that that can also be said for just mental health in general. That's why I think a lot of people need to go to therapy. um, I've gone to therapy, just so everybody knows, since I was in my 20s. I remember I think I was 25 years old. And I mean, also undiagnosed ADHD, partying like crazy, a DJ, not sleeping very many nights on the weekends because I was DJing 5 nights a week. And there was something going on in my head that just didn't seem right. I was getting really anxious about a lot of stuff. I had a lot of anxiety, and I knew that if I didn't do something about it, it was something that was going to affect me for the rest of my life. So I
Mhm.
made the decision to go and find a therapist. And
Mhm.
I went to therapy for about close to 7 or 8 years in that first round. And then I took a break on it. And then I went back to therapy again in my 30s a couple times. And then I took a break on it. And then I've done a couple bouts of therapies in my 40s. And I cannot tell you how much it has helped me with navigating my life. And every single time I see a new therapist, I've only had, I think, in total four, but I feel like I learned something new about myself, and I truly do it so I can not only be better for myself and have my own peace of mind, but you go to therapy so you can be, it is the greatest act of selflessness that you can do for the people around you that you love. If you've got stuff that you have not worked out, I cannot recommend how important it is to do this so you can be better for the people that you love. Because if you've got stuff, there's that saying, I go to therapy for people that refuse to go to therapy or whatever. Like if you can actually take responsibility for your own patterns and your own behaviors and how you show
Mhm.
up in life to the people that you care about, that is you saying that you want to make your relationships better and you want to be better for the people that you love. And
Mhm.
I mean, for me, that is one of my most important things, is
Mhm.
being better for the people around me so my stuff doesn't show up, and I'm taking accountability for my own
Mhm.
stuff. So yeah, that's something.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, someone said, well said. Beautiful. Yeah. Listen. It's the most important thing is the relationship with ourselves. And I think even more so these days, I'm not the best to talk about this because again, I'm biased towards what I feel is important. Because you see so at this age, I see so many people like going through divorce or having such a challenge with external relationships. But I do believe it's because we just haven't worked on the relationship with ourselves enough. Also with therapy, interesting enough, I've tried therapy. I believe in therapy, but I'm always studying the whole process of everything, and I use me as the guinea pig all the time. Like I said, I coach myself before anything, and I think the biggest thing is finding the courage to do it. So, first step is to let go and let God. I say that a lot in a sense, just to find the courage to take the steps forward. Once you've done that, it's being patient because I know when I started searching for the right therapist, it has to be kind of the right fit. Like the whole point of therapy is to have someone allow you to be in a safe space.
Yeah.
Why therapy is super important, or how I relate it to coaching. I'm not a therapist, but it does a lot of my discovery calls or say, be- beginning calls sometimes get so emotional and deep that it starts to touch on places. And I know I guess I'm doing something right because it's very vulnerable. Like therapy allows us to be more vulnerable, more transparent, more honest on who we are. We won't be able to move. I said it earlier. It's like, and for us to move forward, we sometimes have to go backwards. And unfortunately, that's the big H word. Like we have to heal in certain areas. So, I do believe this is my little purpose definition is that ultimately, beyond all the bullshit, is that we're all here just to by the end of it, by the end of days, we want to be as closest to our authentic self as possible. And the reason I say that is because we all have this very strong intuitive, especially artists, creatives, people that are in the whole artist creative world. We
Yeah.
have these high intuitive voice that as we get older, it gets louder. And it almost recognizes like your days are getting less. And if you don't make a change of something soon, it's going to itch and it's going to scratch you want to scratch it. And if you don't, you start getting aggravated at everything around you. So it's almost like therapy is a source of allowing people to discover, go inward, discover, heal, discover, more about who they are and the relationship that they are, the relationships that they have with themselves, so they can continue to move forward and, like I said, become their authentic self, go after the things that their intuitive voice is telling them to do. Work on have the courage and the awkward moments to work on those relationships that they want to have, the partners and stuff like that. And so, yeah, therapy is it's not for everyone. I know that, but I do think it's something that people should try or exercise if they want to improve or they want to listen to that, intuitive voice to move forward. So,
Agreed.
yeah, yeah,
Agreed. And just like mental health in general, especially, and like another thing that we've got to talk about, like we can just kind of all mesh it all together. But
yeah,
another
of
thing,
course.
because we are getting already, it's not even, it feels like it's been like 5 minutes. It's already almost been an hour.
That's a good thing when we're talking about stuff like this, and I think people appreciate it. Listen, this is all a frequency. I don't even get into the woo-woo part a lot. That's what me and Rob, like the coach, we talk about. But once we hit this and we're all united and we're all talking about this, that's the most important thing for me is relationships and the frequency that we can collectively be on in order for us to continue to move forward. And I think that doesn't get highlighted enough, is that we're always on our own. And so I just want everyone to know, like, this is a vibe. And vibe, remember we used to say, oh, it's a party, this is a vibe in the party. Look, vibe is short for vibration. The goal of life is so we can do what we want to do and align so the universe recognizes it and so we can show up with a vibration. Once we get to that level, then it gets interesting. Then it starts to get a bit. Now you want to talk about dopamine. It's pretty crazy. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I
agree.
think yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's wet. Jana, oh, we vibing. Yeah, no, I agree. You're on a high because you feel like everything is flowing. And that's kind of like that's the energy that I'm trying to create for myself this year for sure too.
I'm sure everybody is. Yeah.
Everybody is, yeah. I in regards to like just our industry, the one thing I did want to say, touch on, I mean, I made a joke video last week about how I'm doing dry January, but
Hmm.
I think that it is mental health and our industry being so hedonistic, and I've had a whole rant about this in one of our previous master classes. Everybody is going to party to a certain extent. That's fine. Not everybody, but a lot of people do. That's what the industry is kind of circled around. But just keeping your um, composure, I guess is one word for it. But also, like, professionalism is another. And understanding to pace yourself in our industry is so important, especially nowadays that the younger generation is not drinking to the extent that we used to back when we were in it. And so I said this in a previous masterclass, but I'll say it again one more time. There's a million people that are going to replace you in our industry if you
Hmm.
can't keep your shit together.
Hmm. Hmm.
If you're partying and doing drugs all the time and whatnot, I ultimately um there's room for partying. Everybody does it to a certain extent. Not everybody, but a lot of people still do. And that is totally fine. And there's no judgment towards people that do. But when you're showing up to a gig, when you are, about to go on and perform as an artist, it's really important to keep yourself in check, like in regards to this kind of stuff. Have fun, but know that there's so many people now that are sober.
Hmm.
And this is why this kind of stuff needs to be thought about and come into play. And if you're having trouble keeping this stuff in check, then that's probably when you have a conversation with yourself about what you can do to potentially keep these things a little bit more under control,
Hmm.
or maybe
Hmm.
get rid of
Yeah.
it together.
Yeah, it's I feel like the time for us, like the screw up time is less for
Yes.
now, right? So
Cameras.
we had time to go in there and just fuck. I mean, the first thing I would say, if there's anyone, if there's any tips that I've learned, I don't know, I guess it's the dynamic has changed a bit. Um, but what helped me is first admitting and accepting the big A word, acceptance, that I love to party. Like I had to accept that because there were so many days that I was like, I would say it to myself on Friday, I'm not drinking, I'm not doing coke, I'm not doing nothing. And then I'd end up home at like 7 in the morning after an after party at Sydney Blu's house, and we are playing vintage. I'm just, like it was part of the lifestyle. And so I'm grateful that I was able to go through it. I say this and I don't mean to like joke around. I'm very serious about self-improvement and mindset and stuff like that. But I met like 10-20% of my network fucked up, you know.
Yeah.
And I've been able to be around musicians and artists, and I've met everybody from, like I can go on and on. Believe me, this is where the ego kicks in. But I think the thing about it is that I had to realize first and foremost what I really wanted and how special I was. So I had to go through this like process of understanding and accepting that like, look, I like to have a good time. So it's not just I don't want to blame everybody at all the external stuff. I have to fix what's going on internally. But then when I started on that journey, like meditating and stuff in the late 20s, I started realizing that if I stood a chance at changing and adjusting, I had to remove myself out of certain environments.
Yeah.
And that was because I was an addict. I was, easily influenced by the fact that I never paid for alcohol. I was a promoter. I had drink tickets every club night that I had. I never paid for drugs because it was always around me. So I had to be mindful about where I was and putting myself in that environment. And I had to pull back a lot of that. And then the biggest thing, it still hurts me to this day, was I had to unfortunately change a lot of my friends.
Yeah.
And some of them. I was hand in hand with people that we go out, and these are like what you call or define like the best wingmen ever, because they would stay with you right till the end, or and then you just start to realize like you have to make a decision on what you really want, and
Yeah.
and so there's certain sacrifices that definitely have to be made. But I think the main thing now is that this all is encompassing to work on yourself really. You develop the clarity of what you really want. And even though you might slip a couple times before you get there, that journey of finding it or discovering what it is you want will help you, hopefully, with these self-care practices or starting these strategies in the beginning of the year, will help you make it easier a bit to make the decisions to help you stay composed in those environments. And like any habit that we talked about today, once you start doing that more, you'll start feeling the rewards, and you'll start seeing the rewards that the universe, because you're starting to make an effort to be your authentic self. So it's easier said than done, but I do feel like there's a moment of clarity that comes to you, and we have to pay attention to those signals and signs to say like, hey, enough is enough. I want to become a DJ that travels the world. I want to be able to answer, I couldn't even talk at times. I was so fucked up. So I think it's just, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just grateful that the journey you and I both have had a sign to keep doing what we needed to do, but we had the discipline to change things up.
Yes. Agreed.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think that in regards to your environment, the term "you are the five people you associate with the most"
Mm.
cannot be the more truer statement that you can take away from this. The people that you spend the most time with, they're either going to lift you up or they are going to bring you down. And ultimately, I think it's important to surround yourself with people that are inspired to be better themselves.
Mhm.
They're not doing the things that you don't want to be doing. Like if you don't want to be partying out and staying out late every single night, maybe you shouldn't be hanging out with those kind of people. Maybe you should be hanging out with people that want to see you win. That's another
Mhm.
thing, is like being around people that potentially secretly are jealous or uninspired, by you. Like maybe if you're really driven and that makes them feel uncomfortable, that's another type of person that you don't want to be, spending a lot of time around. You want to be around people that are going to talk good about you in rooms that you're not in, not the
Mhm.
other way around.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think that the more clear we are with the type of friends that we carry, that is going to change your life like
Mhm. Mhm.
immensely. If you
Mhm.
make a decision to surround yourself with people that if you are not there and somebody says shit about you, they're going to defend you. And if you, for example, want to brag, or not brag, but like if you want to share something that is really good that has happened to you, they're not going to say something like to put you down or discredit you or diminish something. You want to feel comfortable about sharing your wins with your friends. You want them to support you and be excited when you share a win, and not
Mhm.
the other way around. Believe me, I've had a lot of friends in the past that have felt uncomfortable when I've talked about exciting things that have happened to
Mhm.
me. And it took me like sitting and realizing that I can't have these kinds of people around me anymore, because the only way I'm going to be like my best self is if I surround myself with people who really want me to do well.
Mhm.
And I want to, do that for other people too. I want to do that for my friends. I don't want to be jealous just because somebody shares one of their goals or their successes or their wins. That's not a real friend. So also think about the type of friend that you want to be to your friends, because ultimately you should be also bigging up your friends and sharing in their wins too. And
Mhm.
if you can create that kind of an inner circle, it is going to be such a difference on your mental state. I cannot
Mhm.
tell you enough.
Mhm.
I think that
Yeah,
it's so important.
yeah. So, this is why it all relates because self-improvement helps with like controlling a bit or noticing a bit of the ego when it comes to like comparison, um, understanding that like I just ultimately trained to be a fan. That's it. Like I'm a fan of everyone. Now there's a catch to that because I'm going to bring up a word that I think we're going to hear more often as we learn to level up is creating boundaries.
Yeah.
Then there's another thing is as you I'm sure you can relate is as you started to become more of your authentic self or become better as a person and improve in life, you start to be alienate almost like you have to sacrifice a certain level because you keep going and people stay at the same place. And so it's interesting because we feel a little bit guilty about that, but that's the process that I had to learn where letting go and letting, the universe do its thing is that you have to really trust the process, and just know that like if it's meant to be or if these people are meant to be with you or in your environment, they're meant to be and it's not on you. So, that's where the stoic principles come in for us is that we learn that, we're really only controlling our side of the road
Yeah.
and we are so people pleaser. Like I'm a hospitality master and I want to always make sure that people are having a good time or the experiences is every amazing for everyone, but it's just that doesn't work that way. It's you can really only focus on what you're bringing to the table and what other people are doing, and that's what they do. And you be a fan of them. You want them to succeed. You want to be a great influence to people, but when they don't do what you think that they're supposed to do, don't you have to work on that. I had to work on that to not be super disappointed or let down or let it affect you. And I feel like one of the biggest flaws that I've learned as a human is that we expect people to act the way we want them to act. And
Yeah.
so once we start understanding that a little bit more and knowing that, like, look, hey, I'm gonna instead of putting that energy out on the expectation of how I'm gonna continue to grow, I'm gonna continue to level up, I'm gonna continue to follow my dreams and do whatever I need to do. I may have to communicate the boundaries to certain people that are intimate in my life. However, I'm not responsible for how other people are acting while I continue this journey of leveling up. So it all relates in terms of it, but this is it gets it's quite interesting when you start to say, you know what, it's my time, it's me, I'm going to work on myself, and then you see everyone around you kind of change, and then people fall off. And like you said, you're lucky if you have like the circle of friends is gets to six, three, and so if you do decide to take it up a notch this year in 2026, please don't get so down on yourself when someone doesn't stay with you, and know
Yes,
that you love them no matter what, and they love you no matter what. The intention is not to hurt anyone. It's just it's time for us to take it to honor who we are, have the gratitude to keep working on ourselves, and just continue this journey and trusting the process.
agreed.
Mhm.
Um, before we go, I mean, we can, I would like to talk about a couple actionable steps that we can
Mhm.
talk to, and then we can answer any questions for the final here. But for actionable steps for to making sure that we stay on top of our goals, what's a, one final kind of message that you would have to make sure, somebody wants to make sure they stay on track this year? What can they do?
Ah, yeah, that's a great one. I mean, I'm biased. I know it's really tough to say this, but perhaps exercise the idea of getting a therapist or a coach if it's financial, if you can afford it. I think that's also the challenge for people, is that people are there's fear there, financially. It is a hard time these days. So some assistance that's going to keep you accountable always works, or works for the most of the time. Um, I would start small. Maybe like don't try to add too many things at once. For example, if people want to, you and I, we've developed the rituals of meditation, exercise, journaling, and what have you. But I just feel like work on one at a time, and
Yeah.
take and focus on building that habit out to the point where I said it, where it's a routine. And maybe that will take me a month or 2 months, but get it to that point where you're starting to feel a difference. And what I mean by that is this: it's not so much about what you see, it's about how you feel. And you want to work on it to the point where you're just starting to understand um, the benefits, the dopamine rewards. One thing that worked for me my whole life, and like I said, I think people should, well, I know people should practice gratitude more. I think,
Yeah.
especially, I think here in especially where we live, with everything that's going on in the world. I decided it was about maybe 8 years ago that it just hit me and dawned on me on all the amazing things that happened to me in my life, and I'm still able to sit here with everyone and talk about it and share all these amazing things. I'm just grateful 24/7. And
Yeah.
people that know me, close to me, whether it's clients, whether it's my friends, they know I'm just a gratitude guy. I preach it 24/7. Gratitude is a superpower. It's also a force field. So when if you're grateful and you stack gratitude, and you can kind of carry it as long as you can until someone cuts you off in traffic, and then you're pissed off and whatever. But if it can protect you from the people that are trying to get at you, or the situations that are trying to get at you, the variables that we can't control, as long as you can. So I think that's a huge thing, is people got to get into the habit of practicing gratitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can go. I can go on. I mean, I love to talk, but I think that's the main thing. Those are the things that come to mind right now.
Somebody just asked any additional advice, recommendations for career planning and goal setting. What my thing that I was just going to say was pick three goals that for this
Mm,
year. I was talking earlier about this thing called, for anybody who missed the beginning, I was talking about this thing that I got earlier the last year called the 1% diary. Just get a notebook. It doesn't have to be that specific diary, but basically what you do, the idea behind it is pick like three goals for your whole year. And
mm,
then every single day in your note, write down what those three goals are. And, maybe one of them is like, for me, I think I'm just trying to think of exactly what mine were specifically. One of them was making music and making sure that I'm releasing on big labels. Another one was working on my mental and physical health. Another one was making sure Change the Beat succeeds. And
mm,
I was a little bit more specific about it, but every single day, write down something you're going to do every day, 1% better every day for one of those
mm,
goals, all three. right? So every day I'm going to, so for example, as an example, I would one day I would make sure I exercise, and then I would also make sure I spend a little bit of time in the studio, or maybe instead I would take one of my tracks that I've finished and I would shop it. And then the next thing I would do is maybe I would work on applying for a grant for Change the Beat, or
Mhm.
maybe I would, try to develop one of our programs a little bit further, because we're constantly evolving and growing into this organization that's got all these different chapters that help people. So every single day I'm going to take time and I'm going to write down what I'm going to do every day to get towards those goals. And if you do it for the whole year, think about where you're going to be in 365 days.
I
So
agree
that,
110%. Write it fucking down. Like
yes.
I think that like I'm very fortunate because in the habit at the end of the year I usually go away and I try to put myself in a very peaceful environment. So I'll go somewhere hot, I don't know, and I'll have my books. I have like books and things right all over, which is I just write them down because even if you look at it, I think scientifically they say like it's better for your brain to know subconsciously to work towards something like that, right? So yeah, write it down. I
Yep.
even have like visualization things posted. Like when I decided to start a coaching business, I was like, holy fuck, obviously the imposter syndrome kicks in, you get fearful, this, that. So I start writing down all these visualization notes around my house. And I totally forgot they're here. And people come in and they're like reading this shit and they're just like, you know, you're about that. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm trying to trick myself to work on the goal. So yeah, huge. 110% believe in writing your goals down for
Prime
sure.
your environment.
Hmm.
Um, shall we do some questions if anybody has any final questions before we go? Because we've gone over an hour already. Jana, do you have any from the chat?
Basically, people were asking, do you have any specific, like what you just outlined,
Yeah.
ideas about goal setting for 2026?
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to bring up something that I thought was interesting that I learned about called habit stacking, which
Hmm.
I think is a cool new sort of thing that I learned about. And it's basically like, say you brush your teeth every day at 8 a.m. when you wake up in the morning, and but you never floss, and you just haven't gotten, your dentist keeps telling you you never do it. Well, if you take that daily tooth, like brushing habit, and then you stack mindfully every single day the flossing on top of it, or every day I eat a peanut butter sandwich and I never follow it up with a glass of water. And you can just stack those little habits, and then by the time you've done the flossing for 3 weeks on top of your, a habit that already exists, then it becomes a bigger habit, and then it becomes your morning routine, like Sydney was talking about, how it's like I do exercise, I do journaling, I do meditation every morning, and it's just my habit, it's my routine now. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Have you guys heard about habit stacking?
Yeah, it's in Atomic Habits. There's a whole thing about it, isn't there, Jeff?
Yeah, more or less, it's the way you kind of create a habit. It's not focusing so much. I think I touched on in the beginning. It's not focused on so much on the outcome. It's just focusing on the task of that habit or stacking that habit daily until the point where it becomes, like natural. So
Yeah.
it's just a term for how we can digest it easier to build a habit. But I call it, like, for example, stacking gratitude. I mean, it's like a high to continuously talk about the things that when I coach clients, I'll say, like, I'll wake up at 6 in the morning. I'll text them at 6 in the morning. I'll be like, tell me three things you're grateful for, and
Yeah.
they'll message me. And so what's I find it interesting is when people start practicing stacking gratitude or practicing gratitude as a whole, they'll look at like health, life, family, partners. I like to take it down a notch where I'm like toilet, shower, bed sheets, like roof with my eyes open, and
Totally.
start small and then start stacking the obvious things. So
Yeah.
I mean, going back to any type of habit or stacking, it is just focusing on the one thing for now and just give it all to just get that floss done the second, third day, and go from there. versus like trying to do four at once.
Yeah. And understand how your brain works too. Like sometimes people are nighttime workers and it takes them a while to get going. Like I'm the kind of person that my best cognitive abilities are going to be in the morning. So the most
Mm.
hardest task that I need to get done, I make sure that I do that in the morning because if I leave, say, making music till the night, I'm just going to, unless I'm doing it in a studio with somebody else and there's a planned studio session and I have that other person to motivate me, the chances of me working on music at 5 o'clock p.m. are just, it's not going to happen. So I try to make music as soon as I wake up if it's going to be a studio day, if I'm making music. If I have to apply for a really boring grant, which I have to do a lot these days, I'm making sure I'm doing that kind of stuff in the morning because like I said, like the brain, it only can do the hard stuff for a certain amount of time, and then it just starts tuning out. And you need to give yourself a break. Like, don't think you're just going to be on all the time. You need to have downtime too, where you can just relax and, like maybe take, if you work all day, take your evenings to chill, read a book, like not have your brain working overtime, but at least do like 4 hours of really good deep work that's non-distracted. Turn your phone off, put it on do not disturb. And if your brain works better in the morning, then utilize that time to do the hardest possible thing at that time, because as the day goes on, you're going to be less likely to, like, if I'm doing a pitch, like I often pitch promoters for events for Change the Beat, for example. Those things are done in the morning because I'm trying to convince somebody to do an event, and I have to, say all the things that we've done, that we've accomplished, to convince them to take us on and to invest in us. And I have to think about, well, what is this person going to think of? What artists is this person going to want to book? All of those kinds of things. I have to really think about it. How am I going to sell this person? I'm like a salesperson kind of thing. And I mean, that's a lot of thinking, and I need to do it in the morning, or else, the
Mhm.
evening I'm just going to be brain
Mhm.
dead. And if I am doing it in the evening, then I'm going to leave it until the morning to before I send it off, because I'll want to look at it with the most fresh brain I could possibly think of. The other day I was doing a deck for our Miami Music Week event, and I worked on it all day periodically. It was a nice deck. I sent it to my agent. She said, "This is great." And I said, "I'm not going to send it off until the morning, because when I wake up, I want to look at it, because
Mhm.
I want to make sure that it's in the best possible position." And right now it's 10 o'clock at night. I can't, there's going to be spelling mistakes and errors maybe. And there wasn't, but often there would be, you
Mhm.
know. So think about when your brain works the best and do the highest possible important work during that time.
And
I'm the
that segues. Oh, sorry, Jeff.
I just
I'll
wanted
let.
to piggyback on that. I'm the same way. I think you gotta be honest with yourself on when like when you're the sharpest. And I think after our morning exercises and stuff like that, our brain's firing off and our nervous system is more upregulated, so it's
Yeah.
easier to achieve those things. And then last, I think this also came from Atomic Habits, is like do little things where you can set yourself up for success. For example, if you are trying to floss, put the floss out.
Yeah.
Like put it on the sink so when you see it, so visually you see it, so you're like kind of hacking your mind to make it easier to do things. Get your, like Joe said, she's like, get your gym clothes out the night before. Do things that are gonna persuade you to do the habit you're trying to build.
Yeah. Agreed.
And that segues into Dave's question, which wraps things up really, really quickly. Um, Dave wants to know shopping to labels versus working versus practice versus other contributions towards these goals. How do you find the balance? So now we've got all these habits, they're stacking, we're motivated, it's great. How do we find a balance?
I would say that the most important thing is to sit and think about what is the most important thing that you need to do that's going to take your career to the next level. What is going to move the needle? I always say that. So for example, if you have a whole bunch of music but nothing is signed, then probably the most important thing you need to do is shop a couple of your records. If you have shopped all your records and gotten your music signed, or you're not working on a lot of music right now, then probably you need to be working on music. Like, think about what the most important thing you need to be doing, and yes, create a balance. Like, there's literally no point in just making music and then not finishing it and not sending it to record labels and getting it signed. Like, if your goal is to be a producer, then you need to sign your music. I mean, I do not make music to not be signed. Like, I wrote one record like about a year ago that never got signed, and it's frustrated the hell out of me because like literally every single record I make, I release. Because if I'm going to spend, because I spend a lot of time on my music, like I'll take it to a studio to have it professionally mastered, and I get feedback from people who, as professional engineers on how to make my records better and stuff. And so I'm going to make sure when I'm finished a record that it's going to be good enough to go to a record label. So I shop everything that I make, and I pretty much sign everything I make. So I think it's important to do both of those things. But sitting at the beginning of the day, and if especially if you have a huge to-do list like me, I have a massive to-do list at all times. It's never going to go away. So the most important thing that I do is I sit and I think about what is the thing that I need to do that's going to move the needle the most right now.
Mm,
And
mm,
that is what I end up doing first.
mm.
And it's usually the hardest too.
That's super powerful. You said that. Did you read the book, The One Thing? Is that why? Like, you know that.
No,
Yeah, so
the
that's
war of
the one
art.
thing. Yeah, the one thing is similar to what you're saying about, because again, ADHD, I think we all have a bit of it or suffer from it. I think we can tend to work on too many things at once. For me, what I've discovered is that for example, I think this journey of self-improvement was about finding myself and honoring myself first. Or the balance I've discovered is that I put myself first before I connect to the world.
Yeah.
So how I discovered that is that when we talk about our morning routine, the morning routine is the job that I have to do for myself. So I've also, since I started real estate, 8, 9 years ago, I had to learn how to work off of my calendar. I had to learn to schedule myself and honor myself so I would not only show up for myself from 5 to 7 in the morning to do my work on myself,
Yeah.
but to honor my clients, to honor everything that I'm working on dealing with people's lives. So I had to learn how to another habit. I had to learn to work off my calendar, my Google Calendar, and then from there I got more balanced or more organized towards how I can execute. And I think that the reality is you're not going to hit everything.
Yeah.
So you got to have that grace for yourself, but at least
Totally.
you are on a path of more, strategy or organizing what your day will look like. And then once that gets a bit more, you get more comfortable with that, then you can maybe find some downtime at nighttime. If people prefer to do a lot of self-care activities in the evening, that's when you do it then. But I think for me, it works from running off my calendar, doing what Joe said, focusing, or I'll write like a list of things I got to work on in the beginning of the day, and then look at what's the most important, what's going to move the needle. In sales, we call it the money making activities. And then, yeah, I've learned to read books to help me stick on what's most important in honoring myself. But like I said, I don't move until I honor myself before I enter this world, because the world is just so intense sometimes. So it's just something that I've learned that works for me. It's just me first, unfortunately,
That's
with
a
love. I say that.
great
Me first.
yeah, that's a great way to look to start your day, is focusing on yourself, and then you
Mhm.
can be there for other
Yeah, and
people.
people I think have a hard time accepting or admitting that. It's like we've been conditioned to think differently because we have to be there for so many people, and I get it. But I feel like again in 2026, the most important relationship is the one you're spending the most time with, which is yourself.
Yeah. Um, I cannot tell you what he said about the calendar too. Like, say if you're bad at making sure you stay on your to-do list, like sometimes you can have this big list that never ends, and that can be overwhelming too as well, guys. Like, put it on your calendar. Like, because if you just have this huge list of things that you need to do, you're gonna look at it and you're gonna be like, oh, so like think about the most important things and then put them, okay, on Tuesday, I'm going to deal with this. On Wednesday, I'm going to deal with this, and put it on your calendar. And I'm constantly doing that. And like he said about having grace for yourself, often, sometimes those things don't get done. Like this week, I had it on my to-do list that I was going to pitch remix contests, and I didn't have time. I was applying for a grant, I was pitching shows, I was having meetings with my agents, I was planning for this, and I just didn't have time to pitch remix contests for us this week. But that'll get moved to next week. But I'm going to put it on my calendar the day that I want to do it. Hopefully, it won't get moved again. Things get moved. It's okay. But at least if you put it on your calendar, you're more likely to do it. Okay. And then is you just keep moving it if you have to. If it doesn't get done that day, just don't take it off. Right. So that's another thing that can keep you on in
And
line.
you're building the habit too. Like remember everything we talked about, just like by putting it in there, you're working on a habit to do it again and the next day and again and the next day and again and the next day. And it just gets easier like anything. The more we do it, the easier it's gonna get.
Yeah. So for our community, a lot of people are making music. They're, it could be, I'm going to reach out to 10 promoters and try to get gigs for this month or for next month. I'm going to reach out to 10 record labels. I'm going to work on my social media content and like just scheduling that kind of stuff. That these are the kinds of things that our community would be doing. Obviously, music production is a huge part of our community, and I know everybody needs to schedule that in. Believe me, I do too. So think about it. Think about stuff like that into regards to what we've been talking about today, because you can utilize a lot of the stuff that we've talked about today in regards to your job as an artist, as a music producer, as a DJ, etc., or just as a regular human and whatever you want to do. So
Mhm.
yeah, this has been a great convo. Thank you so much to everybody who joined us. um I think we discussed a lot of really important things. And yeah, Jeff, thank you so much. Do you want to say anything as final words?
Yeah, I mean, like just grateful to be here, that you chose me to help people. I know we didn't probably talk as much about like career planning and stuff. I think naturally for me, it's just reminding people that it's the clarity towards the career that we want to go for. And I think sometimes we have to take a couple steps back to kind of figure that out, and just remind yourself that when you do that, to have some grace, to have some patience with yourself, and then get that clarity towards pursuing what you really want, so you can wake up every day and be like, this is what I want to put my energy towards. And so when it comes to career, as we get older, the big career word, I think it's also just identifying that, yes, there's purpose external, there's also purpose internal.
Yeah.
And so if we work on ourselves internally, then perhaps the outside, the external career and planning and all the other things will be a bit easier to embrace and work towards. So I'm just happy that I was able to talk to people in the beginning of the year like this. And if anyone wants to meet me more or talk to me more about anything that I've discussed today, they can. I think Jana is sharing a link. It's what I call like a discovery call. It's more of a meeting to talk and get to know each other and people to get to know me. So you can do that if you want to continue some of the conversations that we had today. And then Janice sharing my IG. I got to do the social media thing where I got to share my social media account, so you can see what I'm all about and what I put my time towards. And that's really it. If any, yeah, it's an honor to be here. Like Sydney, you people got to hear it from me first. She is probably one of the most biggest reminders and inspirations that you can do what you want to do. Like that's the end of the day. It's like music, sure, it's artists, it's creativity. It's very intimidating to think, especially when you start comparing yourself to all the freaking DJs. I'm sure there's so many DJs now and the technology has grown immensely. But don't focus on that. Focus on what you really love to do. Focus on your creativity. We're not here to consume as much as I don't believe we're here to consume at all. We're here to create and just utilize those people around you or those digital mentors that can inspire you like Sydney does to me. And every day I have a little reminder to say, you know what? I'm here because of how much I've had a blessing to be on this girl's journey and watching her fucking rock dance floors all over the world. Like, come on, that's it. Like, I get to kind of brag. So Yeah, I know it's amazing. Thank you so much, everybody that took the time to listen to what we had to say. And I would love to do this again again if anybody's up for it. And yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And join CTV Plus, guys, if you can. We're going to be doing this all year round. We do these master classes all year round. It's our Patreon. Jenna just put the link in there. I hope everybody stays on track for 2026. Keep these thoughts and lessons and suggestions in mind. And until next time, we will see you guys on our next masterclass. Okay. Bye, guys. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.